traditional. I think people are writing him off quickly. He knows how to win at Cheltenham, and for me, I thought he was impressive at Newbury. The way he finished the race, and he had a lot of zest. And Paisley Park in the Stayers, I've kind of gone along with Oliver Sherwood. He's his favourite horse. He's a big fan of his. He's done nothing wrong, and won the Cleve Hurdle comfortable last time. And I've gone for Santini in the Gold Cup. I love this horse. I love his racing style. He's not flashy. He's off the bridle. He's lazy, laid back. Nico speaks very highly of him, and there's lots more of improvement to come. And if you read Nicky Henderson's quotes after he won the Cotswold Chase, he said there's tons to come from this fella. And I just like those lazy type of horses.
Flashy horses don't win that Gold Cup, do they? It's for horses like him.
He's a proper stayer, isn't he?
Yeah.
And you do get a lot of stayers winning. And they keep saying about that prep that he had going into last year's festival, Santini, and it was a horrendous prep to go to the RSA, and he ran an absolute belter given those circumstances. A smooth prep granted this time round, and we're getting there now. Touch wood, he doesn't have any sort of setbacks.
He also had a small amount of delta work behind him in that as well.
Yeah.
In the RSA.
But there's so much more potential to come from him, I think.
Yep. Right, let's get to Dundalk for the final time. We've got a 6 furlong handicap, 11-4 easy to back Sceptical. There's plenty of money around for one at a bigger price though. This Amanat is attracting lots of money under Rory Cleary, Gary.
Thanks, Chris. Actually, a former stablemate of Sceptical is Amanat. Won twice up here for Dennis Hogan, now with Damien English. An interesting move for that one, but Sceptical is, I think you'd have to say, the really interesting one here. Johnny, I know you were chatting to Connections earlier on. Has looked a very promising horse in his 2 starts so far. Hacked up here on his most recent outing at a shade of odds on. Mark of 90 on the face of things looks pretty stiff, doesn't it? But this is going to tell us more about him at the very least.
It does. I've had plenty of people tell me that this horse is supposed to be one of the good things of the night. And as I was saying, Connections, I was talking to James Goff, who would be involved with James McCauley, and he's very, very sweet on the horse. Because a mark of 90, Gary, he beat 2 horses rated 64. Granted, he beat them easily, but he's obviously a stakes performer and a handicapper. Certainly, that's what Connections think. And you'd have to give James McCauley a lot of kudos here. They bought this horse, who's very well bred, for less than $3,000, and he's now rated 90. And if they believe what he is, he should be rated about 100, because they obviously expect him to win this. But he will have to work hard to win. You know, War Hero's been very consistent. Won here the last night I was here, and the likes of Empire State, if he were forward enough to run well, 8-1 is a little bit worrying. Amanat was with James McCauley in those colours. Now back with Damien English running for the Grow Stables Limited colours. Interesting horse, but there would be a small concern, I suppose, about it. Is his first start. He's obviously working well on the beach to be a little bit of a market springer, but maybe more of a 5 furlong horse.
Yes, we mentioned earlier on Eddie Greytrack's riding Empire State here for Joseph O'Brien. I was just talking to Brendan Powell a little bit earlier there. He was saying Eddie's been down in Joseph's for the last 3 or 4 weeks, just riding out there, and Joseph happy to give him an opportunity on the track tonight. I don't know whether the plan is for him to stay long term or not, or whether he even knows himself at this stage, but he'll get his chance here on Empire State, who still retains a bit of upside potentially, but hasn't been seen since last July, and as Johnny was saying there, it's been relatively easy to back ahead of this return to the fray. Sceptical then at 11-4, War Hero at 3-1, Aloysius Lilius is next in at 5-1, and he's an interesting horse in his own right, Johnny. He's won his last 2 across the water, and I guess it's kind of not the easiest to assess that form based on the sort of level he's going to need here tonight at Dundalk.
Yeah, but he's been very consistent as well, and you know, he's been running at different tracks, running on different surfaces, even running well on turf last year. I think Gerald O'Leary's going to have a very good year. He has the assistance now of Adrian Joyce, who would have been a trainer in his own right, and I guess probably found it a bit tough to train in terms of being on your own and paying bills and so forth. But he's gone to Gerald O'Leary, an absolute gentleman, training from the Curragh, and would speak very highly of the facilities there. Apparently they have a lovely team of horses this year, and this fella's done really, really well for them. It's an interesting betting heat, Gary, as well, because they've This favourite was kind of weak enough, but I mean, to be honest, if I hadn't spoken to connections, I think I don't like backing horses out of a maiden win straight into a handicap. Now, this horse has been given time to mature. He did bolt up the last day, but I mean, it's not as if Gary O'Gorman has given him an obvious chance, but it'll be very interesting. They obviously think he's very good, but whatever happens tonight, he's been a very shrewd purchase for the money they paid for him.
Yes, can't argue with that. And he's a fine big horse too. Sceptical will see where he fits in here this evening. But War Hero's taken over at the top of the market, as we saw there at 5-2. He's generally speaking been in terrific form up here through the winter. Just one blip, 2 starts back, but back to winning ways under Declan McDonough last time. He was in the plate again this evening. And the late mover in the betting is She's a Babe. It has been a lively betting market. She's a Babe, third behind War Hero last time, but obviously a little bit better off on this occasion, and has got her supporters and has the perfect draw next to the rail in stall 1 as well, which I'd imagine is a factor too. Hafik there, who did well last term, won a couple of big prizes, is going to be one of the last, I think. Billy Lee riding him. Here we go then for the nightcap with Jerry.
Raised. Sit. They're off as they break away in the final race over 6 furlongs, and one has stayed inside in the stalls. It was 8. Amanat has refused to race, as She's a Babe first to show with the great Toggerville, followed by Hatik. On the inside is Empire State and War Hero in between horses, then Sceptical. Aloysius Lilius next with Never Ever Say Never, and Tansik at the back of the field as they head for the halfway stage, and the Floodlit Fridays continue at Dundalk Stadium Handicap. And it is She's a Babe, narrow leader from Toggerville. On the outside, Blue Cap Hatik, followed in with 2.5 furlongs to go by Empire State and War Hero in between horses, followed by Aloysius Lilius. Over on the far side is Sceptical, Never Ever Say Never, and Tansik. Racing inside the 2, and it's She's a Babe with over on the far side coming there strongly Sceptical. War Hero is trying to throw down a challenge, then Toggerville and Aloysius Lilius is staying on, but it's Sceptical and War Hero, these two now battling it out from She's a Babe as they run up to the finish. It is Sceptical who's going to add to his last win, punched out by Colin Keane for his second of the night, with War Hero filling the runner-up spot ahead of Aloysius Lilius.
Well, connections were right to be confident about this horse. It wasn't necessarily reflected in the market late on. He went out to around about 3-1 as War Hero took over as favourite. But Johnny, we've got a real progressive and exciting sprinter on our hands here, I think.
Really, you know, Gary, Ireland doesn't prove to be a hotbed of good sprinters, but this horse, to do that on his third start, rated 90. Now, we're not talking about the height of the summer at the Curragh, or we're not talking about the proper sprints later on down the line, but to do that, the way he travelled, I mean, you were just saying it to me, this horse is absolutely tanking. He still run around under pressure. He did have a win problem earlier in his life, but you go into this horse's pedigree, you can get value at the sales. You know, we talk about horses, obviously, there's obviously some little issue there. They're not getting them for $3,000 as a 3-year-old, fine looking horse. What's he going to get for that? I mean, he's going to get a stone for that, I would say. Like, he won with plenty and certainly double figures, puts him into the 3-figure bracket. He's now all of a sudden a very valuable horse, and I'm absolutely delighted for Connections because they're very nice people. They've invested a lot of money into the game. James obviously trained a bit himself at one stage, and now he's sent his horses to Dennis Hogan and so on. But you know, Dennis has a very, very nice horse in his hands here, and what you'd love as well from the perspective of Connections is that the right horse chased him home.
Yes, 10 quickly became 9 when Amanat refused to come out of the stalls. The horse who there was a few quid for at big prices. But the eye is kind of drawn to the winner there. Tucked away in the inside, travelling well. Colin Keane has kept him covered up. And as we see him do so often here, the former champ completing a double on the card this evening. He gets him rolling down the inside here, Johnny. And you can understand the horse is still a little bit raw. He runs around a little bit. And it is quite blowy out there too this evening. But he's always going forward, isn't he? And always looked as though he had War Hero's measure.
I feel a bit sick. I just see the SP there. I backed him I actually went up to the betting ring and had a few bob on him in the indoor betting ring at 5-2, thinking I was doing great about 20 minutes ago. If you got your guaranteed odds, this horse was about 5-2 last night, but he just travelled so well, Gary. You know, he's just a horse that seems to have loads of ability, floats off that surface. Colin rode him very confidently, but I mean, the way he just loomed up there in the inside, I think Colin was trying to hold on to him really, and a very, very very solid run for More Hero. What a progressive horse he's been as well for Ado.
Bumped into one, didn't he? He's beat the rest of them.
Bumped into one, bolted up if you took the winner out of the race. But I'm sure it'll be intriguing to see what connections say. But I am genuinely very happy for